My shift at the diner didn't end until 1 in the morning. Walk home was just a straight 2-mile stretch of empty country road. There were no turnoffs, just steep ditches and thick pine woods on either side. It was one of those clear, cold nights where you can see your breath cloud up in the air and the stars feel almost too bright. I always had my headphones in, but I never played music that late. I just wore them to muffle the overwhelming silence. About halfway home, I saw a pair of headlights appear over the hill far behind me. Figuring it was just a late-night driver, I moved over to the shoulder, the gravel crunching under my boots. But the car didn't speed past like I expected. Instead, it slowed to a crawl about 20 yards back and just matched my walking pace. I kept walking, trying to act casual, refusing to look back, but the hairs on the back of my neck were standing straight up. I could hear the low, steady idle of its engine, a constant hum in the quiet night. After a full minute of this creepy procession, I'd had enough. I stopped and turned around, ready to either stare them down or just let them finally pass. The car, a dark SUV with its high beams off, stopped too. The inside was pitch black, but the faint glow from the dashboard cast a silhouette of a single driver. We just stood there, frozen in the middle of nowhere, for what felt like an eternity, but was probably only 10 seconds. My heart was hammering against my ribs. I turned and started walking again, much faster this time. The SUV crept forward, maintaining that exact same distance behind me. I pulled out my phone, my hands trembling. No service, of course, not out here. I decided to try an old trick I'd seen in movies. I suddenly stopped and bent down, pretending to tie my shoe. The car stopped instantly. That confirmed it. This wasn't someone who was lost or confused. This was deliberate. This was a game. When I stood back up, I did the only thing I could think of. I stepped off the shoulder and started scrambling down into the steep, weedy ditch that lined the road. The ground was muddy and deep, and thorny brambles tore at my jeans. That's when I heard it. The unmistakable sound of the SUV's driver's side door opening and then slamming shut. I didn't dare look back. I scrambled up the other side of the ditch and plunged into the woods, branches whipping against my face. I ran until my lungs felt like they were on fire, then ducked behind a thick pine tree, forcing myself to peer back toward the road. The SUV was still there, parked on the shoulder. The driver was standing by the open door, holding a flashlight. He swept the beam slowly, methodically, across the edge of the woods, right where I'd gone in. He wasn't calling out my name or making any sound at all. He was just searching. Silently, I stayed pressed against that tree, hardly daring to breathe, for what felt like an hour. Eventually, the flashlight beam cut off. I heard the car door shut again, but the engine didn't start. It was just sitting in there, waiting in the dark. My house was still a mile away through the darkness. I had no choice. I moved deeper into the woods, trying to stay parallel to the road, using the faint glow of the night sky over the asphalt to guide me. Every few minutes I'd stop, strain my ears, and listen. I never heard the engine start. The woods were dead silent. It took me over 2 hours to circle through the forest and come up behind my own house. From the safety of my back porch, I could see a small slice of the main road. It was empty. The SUV was gone. Stumbled inside, locked every single door and window, and finally collapsed, shaking uncontrollably. The next morning, I had to know. Drove my own car back to the spot where it all happened, and there, clear as day on the shoulder, were fresh tire tracks pressed deep into the soft gravel. And right beside them, leading down into the ditch, was a single set of adult-sized boot prints, pointing directly toward the woods. I first saw him under the flickering light at the corner of Maple and 7th, about 3 blocks from my apartment. He was just a tall man in a dark jacket, standing unnaturally still beside a parked van. I glanced away, pretending to check my phone, and when I looked back, he was walking not across the street, but turning onto Maple, right behind me. I tried to rationalize it. I adjusted my pace, telling myself it was a coincidence. People live here, they walk. But the rhythm was off. It felt wrong. As my steps quickened, his matched the increase. When I slowed to a near crawl, the gaps between his footsteps behind me stretched out, but they never stopped. A cold knot started to form in my stomach. something was definitely not right. At the next intersection, I broke my own rule and took a deliberate left, a detour that added 2 whole blocks to my trip home. For a split second, the sound of my turning was the only one. Then, that crisp click of a heel on concrete followed from the exact same corner. There were no jingling keys, no phone conversation, no casual hum, just purposeful, measured steps. Cold clarity washed over me. This was a test, and I had just confirmed I was being followed. The normal sounds of the night, a dog barking somewhere, distant TV felt muffled, pushed back by this bubble of silent pursuit that was growing around me. My usual safe haven was the well-lit path through Oakmere Park. I practically jogged the half-block to its entrance, the footsteps now openly keeping pace, much closer behind. I rushed onto the gravel path, but my heart sank into my shoes. The park lights were out. The entire park was a total pitch-black void between the rows of oak trees. The streetlight ID just left only illuminated the first 10 feet of the path before it was completely swallowed by darkness. I froze right there at the threshold, listening.
Nice.
His footsteps had stopped just on the edge of the light behind me. He was waiting. I couldn't go forward into that blackness, but going back meant walking right past him. I was trapped. So I turned around, facing the direction I'd come. He stood under the street lamp, about 20 feet back. He was just a silhouette, hands tucked into his jacket pockets. He didn't advance, he didn't speak. He just stood there, his head slightly tilted, observing my paralysis. The utter normalcy of his posture was what chilled me the most. This wasn't some monster from a movie. It was a man making a calculated decision to terrify me. After what felt like an eternity, I heard the faintest sound, slow, deliberate exhale, almost like a sigh of satisfaction. And then he took one single small step forward. My hands were shaking, but I fumbled my phone out, my thumb hovering over 911. I took a reckless step off the path, into the dark, damp grass of someone's front yard, circling wide around him at a frantic, stumbling run. I didn't dare look back. I just ran until my lungs burned, my legs screaming, finally scrambling up my own front steps. Locked it and peered through the blinds. The street was empty. I never saw him again. I changed my route, my schedule, everything. But sometimes when I'm walking anywhere after dark, I'll catch myself holding my breath, listening for that specific gap between my footsteps and another's that never quite syncs up. The true horror wasn't the chase itself. It was the realization that for 7 blocks, I was just an experiment to him. And I have no idea what the results were. Thanks for listening to my story. Stay safe out there, and don't forget to follow for more. My car was in the shop, so for a week, my routine was a 1:30 a.m. bus ride and a 6-block walk home. The neighborhood was decent, but at night, all the residential streets looked the same under that sodium orange glow. That night, a thick fog had rolled in, clinging to the ground and making everything quiet. I remember getting off the bus, the doors hissing shut behind me, and thinking how the fog turned each street lamp into a lonely, isolated island of light. About 2 blocks in, I realized my mistake. I'd turned onto Cypress Avenue instead of Cypress Court. It was a dead-end street, a fact completely swallowed by the fog. Annoyed, I decided to cut through the back alley behind the last row of houses to get to the parallel street I needed. The alley was narrow and unlit.
Yes.
The fog was even denser in here, with high fences on either side that felt like canyon walls. The only sounds were the damp scuff of my shoes on the pavement and the drip of water from a gutter somewhere nearby. Halfway down the alley, I saw it. It's the silhouette of a large, boxy vehicle and old van parked sideways, completely blocking the path. The inside was dark. I let out a sigh of frustration and turned to go back the way I came. That's when I saw the headlights. The sedan had quietly rolled into the alley entrance right behind me. Its lights were on, but the engine was off. It wasn't moving, just sat there, idling silently, its bright beams cutting through the fog and pinning me in a haze of light and shadow. My exit was sealed. My heart hammered against my ribs. The van in front, the car behind. No doors opened, no one got out. The silence was absolute, deafening. I looked at the tall wooden fence to my left. It was my only option. I scrambled over it, my hands getting scraped and splintered, and landed hard in a dark, unfamiliar backyard. I immediately crouched behind a shed, peering back through a crack in the fence. A moment later, the sedan's headlights finally switched off. In the returning gloom, I saw two dark figures get out of the front of the van. They stood together, looking toward the fence where I had disappeared, but they didn't approach. I stayed hidden in that backyard for what felt like an eternity, but was probably an hour. I was completely frozen, just listening. I never heard them speak a single word. Eventually, I heard the van start up with a low rumble and slowly drive away. The sedan followed just a few minutes later. Only when I was sure they were gone did I dare to move. I ran through 3 different backyards before I finally emerged onto a main road. I called a rideshare from under the bright lights of a gas station canopy, my hands still shaking uncontrollably, reported it to the police. They were polite and took my statement, but later told me they found no stolen vehicles matching the descriptions in the area. The best explanation they could offer was that it was a case of mistaken identity, or maybe just some kids trying to scare someone. But the coordination of it, the silence, the sheer patience of it all, it felt like something practiced, like a routine. I got my car back the next day and, as you can imagine, I never took that bus again. Sometimes, though, my mind drifts back to that dead-end street and the perfect silent trap of the alley. I wonder what their plan was once I was boxed in. I'm terrified by the fact that because I ran, I'll never ever know. Thanks for listening. Stay safe out there.